Michael Popok, Legal AF, Ken Chessbro is really starting to sweat now with his trial with his conjoined twin, Sidney Powell, in Georgia for the election interference role in the criminal RICO case, racketeering case, set to start on the 23rd of October, but jury selection on the 20th of October. And the judge, Judge McAfee, has already said how he's going to do jury selection, and Ken Chessbro doesn't like it. There's no other way to put this. Ken Chessbro doesn't like it. So about every day, sometimes twice a day, he files motions. Motion to dismiss the indictment, motion to quash the indictment, motion to use a defense that's never been used before, motion to have the indictment dismissed right now without him having to go to trial or get up out of the bed at all. Everything has failed. Everything that his lawyer, Scott Grubman, has filed so far has failed miserably, except for the one where he said, I want to go to trial really quickly. Judge said, you got it. See you on the 23rd of October. I'm not sure if there was an inner dialogue going on with Ken Chessbro, but it might have been something like this. I didn't mean that quick. But now that it's going this quick, he's got to get on board this moving freight train. And so he keeps filing these motions. And the new one is, I don't like how many potential jurors, I can strike before I pick the ultimate jury. What we're talking about here, what I'm talking about here, I don't know why I went into third person, is a concept called peremptory challenges. Peremptory challenges. A phrase you'll never hear outside of a trial setting, a courtroom, in Legal AF in this podcast, in this hot take. A peremptory challenge is a challenge just because when you're selecting a jury. I'll give you an example. This Judge McAfee, is going to bring down 450 potential jurors at a time. That's what the panel is going to consist of, the veneer, 450. They'll probably come down in 30, 40, 50 person increments, depending upon how much room he's got in that courtroom. And they'll load him into the box of the jury, all the rows of the jury, and all the extra chairs they bring in, and they'll put him over next to the judge, and they'll put him on the side of the judge, and they'll pack him into this courtroom. And then starts a process of interviewing the jurors in a concept we call, back to the old French, voir dire, or some of my brethren, some of my colleagues down in the South call it voir diary. Whatever you want to call it, it's the questioning of potential jurors, in order to figure out if there's any bias or try to pick the ones you like. And the judge does some questioning, and usually there's a written questionnaire for some basics. And then in state court, and in Georgia, you get to almost try your case through voir dire. And you ask questions, and people raise their hands, and then your colleagues write them down, and you figure out who you like and who you don't like. This one is sleeping. This one doesn't appear to speak any English. This one is nodding his head, no, every time you spoke. This one is smiling and flirting with the opposition. This are the things that you write down in your little box. If I had a little jury selection paper, you would see what I'd be writing down. And this is how and sometimes you have a jury consultant with you. Could work for you if you're the state of, the Georgia or Fulton County. You have to hire them privately if you're outside that. And they help say, should be this many women and this many men, or this many of this group or that group, or keep the Catholics off, or whatever they come up with. That last part was just an example. I don't want to keep the Catholics off anything. But as long as you're not racial in your approach, because the U.S. Supreme Court says that's a no-no, as it should be, you get a series of what's called peremptory challenges or strikes, as you and the other side, in this case the prosecution, pick a jury. You literally pick a jury. And they bring them in, let's say, 20 in a box. I think they're going to go for 12 jurors here. Could be 9. I think it's 12. And then you just go. Juror number 1. And you go up with the judge with your clipboard, your chart, or your laptop, whatever you got. And the judge says, and it puts on the little white music, white noise, so nobody can hear us talking up there. And they'll start with the defense. And you'll say, I strike 1. Okay. Now you've used one of your voluntary peremptory strikes. And so 1 comes out of the box and they get dismissed. Then they'll go over to the defense or the prosecution. What do you strike? We're okay with what we want to strike 3. And then they start dismissing jurors and moving people into those seats until you run out of challenges, peremptory challenges. And both sides in this case get 9 Prosecutor gets 9, and the entire defense team, in this case, 2 people, Powell and Chessbro, both former lawyers for Donald Trump, they get to split their 9, and the prosecutor gets their 9. So you have 18 that you can definitely get rid of, and then you're done, except one other concept I'll teach here, which is the for-cause challenge, which is sort of what it sounds like. The person is so bad and so incapable of meting out justice, right, and being fair and impartial, in violating the Sixth Amendment rights of the defendant, because they've made up their mind, because they don't like white people, because they don't like black people, because they don't like people, because they've heard about the case and they know that guy's guilty. Whatever it is, they have mental incapacity. They really don't. They love to serve, but they don't speak English. They love to serve, but they've got a physically challenged or mentally challenged, parent or child or extended family member at home, and they're the primary caregiver. Whatever it is, the judge can use his own magical, unlimited supply of for-cause challenges and get rid of that person. And then they doesn't have to come out of your 9, where the defense or the prosecution's 9, because the judge took care of it. So the judge will say, I'm going to dismiss on my own jurors 3, 6, 12, and 14. Boom, they're gone. And usually that's a good thing. I've only had like one situation, and I've tried about 30 cases, where the judge got rid of somebody I really liked. I was like, not 6. I loved 6. And so they're gone. And then you go with your 9 and your 9. Ken Chessbro doesn't like his 9. It's not enough. He doesn't have enough toys. He doesn't want to share his toys or his 9 with Sidney Powell. He's been trying to get away from Sidney Powell since the moment they both stepped forward and said, we'll take speedy trial. And they looked at each other. Oops. Ken Chessbro thought he'd be alone. Not going to be alone. He's going to have one of his he could have another. By the way, I got bad news for Ken Chessbro. The judge ruled last week at a hearing that if other people don't waive their right to the speedy trial, they should expect to go on October the 23rd also. I think that scared the crap out of everybody, and they're all going to file that little piece of paper they need to file. But there could be more than just the 2 of them. Now, it was interesting in Ken Chessbro's papers demanding more strikes. We need more strikes. We need more cowbell. He wants 5 more, like just for himself, because he said, even if I love this papers, even if you take it at face value, that co-conspirator and me were running different aspects of the conspiracy. She's the Coffee County break-in, fraudulent download, tampering with election interference part of the conspiracy, and I'm the alternate elector, fake elector part. And so I can't even get it out with a straight face. I'm not saying they admitted that they're the co-captains of these 2 teams, but it was interesting to see how he quickly pointed his finger at the other one and said, she's the really crazy one. She's Coffee County breaking into election equipment, like the old Bugs Bunny screwball. And he's like, I'm just the alternate electors. I'm just a lawyer who gave out advice. So that was interesting. And then saying, and I like the math they did. I'm not sure it works, but they said because of the large size of the jury pool, judge, that you're bringing down 450, my little measly 4.5, whatever a half is, of a challenge is like 1%. It's all I get to get rid of. That's not fair. Because if it was a smaller pool, my whatever strikes would be more valuable. I don't know exactly, as you can imagine, what Scott McAfee, the judge, is going to do. I don't have any insider knowledge. I'm not talking to his staff. He's not talking to me. But being a 32-year trial lawyer in courthouses and courtrooms just like this one, here's what I predict. I think the judge is going to give him a couple of more peremptory strikes. I think that he's going to give the defense maybe 14, 7 apiece. And he's going to give the prosecutors 14. He's going to even it up. And then they're going to start with their 28 and 4 causes, and they're going to try to pick a jury. And it may take them 2 weeks. We'll be reporting on it on the MeidasTouch network. But I just find it fascinating that Ken Chessbro, in his own filing, said, I'm not with crazy, once again, pointing to Sidney Powell. I got bad news for him. You're with all the crazies. You all think you all think the other guy's crazy and you're sane. The reality is that's the beauty of a conspiracy. You're all in it. You're all tied together, whether you wanted to or not, because you made a pinky swear against to support the overthrow of our democracy. And you signed on the bottom line in many cases, including in evidence, like the fake elector certificates. And now you're going to go and find justice with a Fulton County jury selected under the auspices of one Scott McAfee. As we get closer, including on reporting about the flip of cooperating co-defendants, I make one prediction right here. It's almost a guarantee. Fani Willis will not be trying a case that in total involves 19 people. No way. She already got Scott Hall, the bail bondsman who helped who got invited in by other co-conspirators to download and manipulate voting machines and voting equipment, Dominion voting machines of all things, in Coffee County, and bragged about it in a recorded phone call. He flipped already. They didn't even give her, he didn't even get a great deal because he had to plead guilty and then cooperate. And then Fani Willis will let him know what kind of sentence that she's going to recommend. Others better start flipping too, having now seen that. That had to be a shocking development. There'll be much less. I don't know if it's 5 people who finally go to trial, including Donald Trump, 6 or 8. It's one of them. But we're going to see what happens with the first 2. She gets a conviction of Chessbro and Powell 3 or 4 months after October, sometime around March. And that you're going to see, if they haven't already, people are going to be lining up to Fani Willis to sign a plea deal and to be done. And I think at the end, there'll be the 5 hardcore. Like Giuliani will never take a deal. Meadows, I'm not even sure. Trump certainly won't. Sidney Powell, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Ken Chesebro, he thinks he's some sort of constitutional law professor like John Eastman, and we know what happened with him. And John Eastman. I think that's a hard pass, I think, for that group. They haven't finished drinking all the Kool-Aid yet, and I think they stay in that case. But we'll follow it in one place, the MeidasTouch Network. I do it in hot takes just like this one place, exclusively on the MeidasTouch Network. You can follow me on my podcast. I sit at the intersection of, listen to this real estate corner, law, politics, and justice, Wednesdays and Saturdays. I have a co-anchor, Karen Freeman Agnifilo, Ben Meisalis on Saturdays. And the leaders of Legal AF bring you hot takes like this one about every, 45 minutes on the MeidasTouch Network. Help keep them on the air. Help keep this content coming to you by free subscribing to the MeidasTouch YouTube channel. And listen to Legal AF and follow and subscribe and leave me a nice thumbs up here. It's a lot of begging here at the end by me, Michael Popok, at the end of my own hot take. But, if you enjoy what I'm doing, this is the way to support it. People say, how can I support it, Popok? I bump into more people now in the last year, in the last 3 months, than ever before. Literally bump into people who say, Popok, love the hot takes. Just had it happen to me at a Broadway show on Saturday. A gentleman going up the stairs to the mezzanine said, love what you do, love the hot takes, keep them coming. Had a guy meet me on a boardwalk in Point Pleasant Beach, New Jersey, from Miami. Popok gave me that thumbs up. It's heartwarming when it happens. I'm still shocked by it. But I'm just a conduit. I'm just bringing you information without smoke or sunshine, catching it, reviewing it, analyzing it, exploding it, reassembling it in front of you in a way that doesn't talk down to you, in a way that you can understand regardless of what your training or background is. The fact that you're here is more than half the battle, right? And you're doing your part for democracy. President Biden said, democracies die in the dark and they die in silence. And this is one way for you to shed the light and have your voice heard. Until my next hot take, until my next episode of Legal AF, this is Michael Popok reporting.
Hey, Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.